The storm hit Montana with the fury of an angry god. Rain hammered against the windows of Dr. Jake Morrison's small cabin like bullets from heaven. Lightning split the dark sky every few seconds, turning night into day for brief moments before plunging everything back into darkness. Thunder rolled across the mountains like the roar of some massive beast. Jake sat at his kitchen table, reading a veterinary journal by lamplight. The power had gone out an hour ago, which was nothing new in these remote parts. He lived alone, 20 miles from the nearest town, with only his medical books and the occasional injured animal for company. At 32, he had chosen this quiet life after years of working in busy city clinics. Here, he could focus on helping animals without the stress of urban life. The wind howled around his cabin, bending the tall pine trees until they looked ready to snap. Jake had seen many storms in his 5 years living here, but this one felt different. The air itself seemed to vibrate with energy. Even his dog, Rex, had been acting strange all day, whining and pacing around the house like he sensed something coming. A crash outside made Jake jump. It was not the sound of a falling tree or flying debris. This was something else entirely. Something massive had hit the ground behind his cabin. The impact shook the entire building and rattled the windows. Rex started barking frantically, his tail tucked between his legs. Jake grabbed his flashlight and rain jacket. Whatever had crashed out there might be hurt. In his years as a veterinarian, he had learned to respond to emergencies without thinking too much about his own safety. He pulled on his boots and stepped out into the storm. The rain soaked through his jacket in seconds. The wind was so strong, it nearly knocked him over. Jake fought his way around the cabin, using his flashlight to cut through the darkness. The beam danced wildly as he struggled to keep his footing on the muddy ground. What he saw when he reached his backyard made him stop dead in his tracks. His flashlight beam revealed something that should not exist. A dragon lay sprawled across his small field, its massive body crushing his vegetable garden. The creature was easily 40 feet long, with scales that gleamed like black metal in the lightning flashes. Its wings were torn and bleeding, and deep gashes marked its sides. Jake stood frozen, his mind trying to process what he was seeing. Dragons were not real. They were creatures from fairy tales and movies. Yet here was one, breathing heavily and obviously in pain. Its large golden eyes opened and focused on him. For a moment, man and dragon stared at each other through the rain. The dragon tried to lift its head but collapsed back to the ground with a pained growl. Jake could see that it was badly injured. Some of the wounds looked like they came from weapons, not accidents. Burns marked the creature's hide, and one wing hung at an odd angle. Without thinking, Jake stepped forward. The dragon's head snapped up, and it hissed at him. Teeth the size of daggers gleamed in the flashlight beam. Jake raised his hands slowly, the way he did when approaching a frightened animal. He spoke in the same calm voice he used with injured pets. "Easy there, big guy. I'm not going to hurt you. I'm a doctor." "Well, a veterinarian, but I think I can help." The dragon's eyes narrowed, but it did not attack. Jake took another careful step forward. The creature was clearly in too much pain to be aggressive. He could see it shivering, which was not good. Even a dragon could go into shock from blood loss and trauma. "I need to get you out of this rain," Jake said, more to himself than to the dragon. "My barn is right over there. It's big enough, I think." The dragon made a sound that might have been agreement or just pain. Jake hurried back to his cabin and grabbed his emergency medical kit. It was designed for large animals like horses and cattle, but he hoped it would work on a dragon too. He also brought blankets, towels, and a battery-powered lantern. Getting the dragon to the barn was not easy. The creature was too hurt to fly, but it managed to drag itself across the ground with Jake's encouragement. Every few feet it had to rest. Jake used this time to examine its wounds more closely. The burns looked like they came from some kind of energy weapon. The cuts were clean, made by something very sharp. "What happened to you?" Jake asked as he helped the dragon settle onto a bed of hay in his barn. "Who did this?" The dragon looked at him with those intelligent golden eyes but said nothing. Jake was not even sure if it could understand him. He set up the lantern and began cleaning the wounds. The dragon flinched when he touched the burns but did not try to bite him. Jake worked steadily, using everything he knew about treating large animals. He cleaned the wounds with antiseptic and applied healing ointment. The dragon's blood was red like any other animal's, which somehow made the whole situation feel less impossible. He gave the creature antibiotics and pain medication, calculating the dosage based on its size. "There," Jake said when he finished bandaging the worst wounds. "That should help. You need rest and time to heal." The dragon watched him with what looked like gratitude. Jake brought water in a large bucket, and the creature drank deeply. He also offered food, but the dragon was not interested. It just wanted to rest. Jake spent the rest of the night in the barn, checking on his unusual patient. The storm gradually weakened, and by dawn only light rain was falling. The dragon slept fitfully, sometimes making soft sounds that reminded Jake of a cat purring. As the sun rose, the dragon opened its eyes and looked at Jake. This time, something was different. The creature struggled to its feet, moving more easily than the night before. The medicine and rest had helped. Jake smiled, feeling proud of his work. The dragon walked to the barn door and looked out at the clearing sky. It turned back to Jake and did something unexpected. It lowered its massive head and gently touched Jake's forehead with the tip of one claw. The contact was warm, almost electrical. Suddenly Jake could hear a voice in his mind. It was deep and ancient, speaking words. He somehow understood even though they were not in English. "I am Zaraketh of the Skyborn people. You have shown kindness to a stranger, healing bringer. This gift is not forgotten." Jake staggered backward, his eyes wide. "You can talk." "You're talking to me in my head. We have watched your kind for long cycles of the sun. Most would have fled or attacked. You chose to heal. This speaks of good hearts among your people." "There are others like you?" Jake asked, his voice barely a whisper. "Many others scattered across the stars. We are old, healing bringer, older than your kind knows, and we are hunted." "Hunted? By who?" The dragon's eyes grew dark. "By those who fear what they cannot control. They come to your world soon. They believe it is empty of thinking beings. They are wrong about many things." Jake felt a chill that had nothing to do with the morning air. "What do you mean they're coming here?" The hegemony seeks to claim all worlds for their empire. They destroy any who might stand against them. They do not know that Skyborn still live on the world of our birth. They do not know that your people exist. But now they will? Perhaps. But your kindness has changed something, healing bringer. It has given hope where there was none. My people will remember what you have done." The dragon spread its wings, testing their strength. The injured wings still hung oddly, but it could support the creature's weight. Zaraketh looked at Jake one last time. "Danger comes with the next sun's rising. Be ready, healing bringer. What you have started cannot be undone." With that, the dragon launched itself into the sky. Jake watched it disappear into the clouds, wondering if he had dreamed the whole thing. But the destroyed garden and the blood on his hands proved it was real. He had saved a dragon's life, and somehow that simple act had changed everything. As Jake walked back to his cabin, he had no idea that alien ships were already approaching Earth's solar system. He did not know that his act of kindness had been observed by sensors throughout the galaxy. He only knew that his quiet life was about to become very complicated. The storm was over, but a bigger one was coming. Jake Morrison barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw golden dragon eyes staring at him. He kept telling himself it was all a dream, but the torn bandages in his barn and the crushed vegetables in his garden proved otherwise. A dragon had crashed in his backyard, and he had saved its life. The morning sun was just breaking over the mountains when Jake heard the sound. It was not like anything he had ever heard before. A low humming noise that seemed to come from the sky itself. He looked out his kitchen window and saw 3 black shapes moving through the clouds. They were not planes or helicopters. They moved too smoothly, too silently. Jake grabbed his binoculars and stepped outside. The objects were getting closer, and he could see they were not from Earth. They looked like giant insects made of dark metal, with wings that did not flap, but somehow kept them in the air. Each craft was about the size of a school bus, and they were heading straight for his cabin. Rex started barking again, the same frightened bark from the night before. Jake felt his heart racing. This was what the dragon had warned him about, the danger that was coming with the next sunrise. He had thought he would have more time. The 3 alien ships landed in the field behind his cabin, right where the dragon had crashed. Their landing was perfect, making no sound and leaving no marks in the soft earth. Doors opened in the sides of each ship, and being stepped out, Jake had seen aliens in movies, but these were different. They were tall, maybe 7 feet, with thin bodies covered in dark armor. Their heads were shaped like triangles, with large black eyes that reflected the morning light. They had 4 arms each, 2 where humans had arms and 2 smaller ones from their chests. They moved with mechanical precision like soldiers on parade. One of the aliens walked toward Jake's cabin. It was taller than the others, with silver markings on its armor. When it spoke, Jake was surprised to hear perfect English. Human designation Jake Morrison. You will come with us for questioning. Jake's mouth went dry. How do you know my name? We know many things about this world and its inhabitants. You have interfered with hegemony operations. This requires immediate correction. The alien's voice was flat, without emotion. It sounded like a computer trying to sound human. 2 other aliens moved to flank Jake, their 4 arms moving in ways that made him dizzy to watch. I don't know what you're talking about, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady. I'm just a veterinarian. I live alone out here. Last night, you provided medical assistance to a class A hostile entity. This action has disrupted our planetary assessment protocols. Jake realized they were talking about the dragon. Hostile entity? It was hurt and needed help. That's what I do. I help injured animals. The lead alien tilted its triangular head. The Skyborn are not animals. They are an advanced species that has evaded hegemony control for over 3,000 of your years. Your interference has complicated our acquisition of this world. Acquisition? Jake felt anger rising in his chest. This is our world. You can't just take it. Your species shows promise but lacks proper guidance. Under hegemony rule, humans will serve useful functions. Resistance is not advised. The alien raised one of its upper arms, and Jake saw a weapon of some kind attached to it. The device hummed with the same energy he had seen burn the dragon. He took a step back, his mind racing. He needed to buy time and figure out how to get out of this situation. Look, I don't know anything about dragons or Skyborn or whatever you call them. I just saw an injured creature and helped it. That's what humans do, explain this behavior. Our studies indicate that most species prioritize self-preservation over assisting unknown entities. Jake stared at the alien. It genuinely seemed confused. By his actions, we help each other, we help animals. It's just who we are. This is inefficient. Resources should not be wasted on non-productive activities. It's not waste, it's compassion. When something is hurt, you help it, even if it's different from you. The alien's large black eyes seemed to focus more intently on Jake. You risked your safety for a being you had never encountered. This makes no tactical sense. Maybe not to you, but it makes perfect sense to me. Before the alien could respond, a new sound filled the air. Jet engines, coming fast and low. Jake looked up to see military aircraft approaching from the south. F-22 Raptors, 4 of them, flying in formation. Someone had noticed the alien ship's dot. The lead alien spoke into a device on its chest. Jake could not understand the words, but the tone was clearly annoyed. The other aliens began moving back toward their ships, their weapons powering up. Human military response detected. This complicates our schedule, the lead alien said. You will board our vessel. Your government will be informed of new administrative arrangements. I'm not going anywhere with you, Jake said. Backing toward his cabin, the alien raised its weapon, but before it could fire, the fighter jets screamed overhead. Jake dove behind his truck as the alien scattered. The jets made another pass. and he could see missiles dropping from their wings. The missiles hit the alien ships, but instead of exploding, they simply vanished against some kind of energy barrier. The alien craft did not even shake. The lead alien made a sound that might have been laughter. Primitive weapons. Your military will learn quickly that resistance is futile. The alien ships began to rise into the air, their humming growing louder. Jake watched as the fighter jets tried to engage them, but their weapons had no effect. The aliens were not even trying to fight back. They were just demonstrating how helpless human weapons were against their technology. One of the alien ships fired a single beam of energy at the ground near the jets. The beam carved a perfect circle in the earth, 50 feet across and 20 feet deep. The jets pulled back, their pilots clearly getting the message. The lead alien's voice came from speakers on its ship. "Attention, human military forces. This world is now under hegemony protection. Resistance will result in immediate corrective action. Return to your bases and await further instruction." Jake watched the jets circle at a safe distance. He could imagine the radio chatter between the pilots and their commanders. This was probably the first time in human history that Earth forces had faced a superior alien technology. They had to be scared and confused. The alien ships began to descend again, but this time they did not land. They hovered about 50 feet above the ground, their weapons clearly visible. Jake realized they were making a statement. They could destroy the human aircraft easily, but they were choosing not to. They wanted to demonstrate their power, not start a war. The lead alien's voice came from the ship again, but this time it was directed at Jake. "Your military response proves that the skyborne entity transmitted information about our presence. This confirms our assessment that your species cannot be trusted with advanced knowledge." Jake felt a chill. The dragon had not told anyone about the aliens. He had kept that information to himself. But somehow the military had detected the alien ships. Maybe they had been watching the skies, or maybe they had sensors that could detect alien technology. "I didn't tell anyone about you," Jake called up to the ship. "The military probably just saw your ships on radar. Irrelevant. Contact has been established. Your species will now be evaluated for integration into the hegemony. Cooperation will be rewarded. Resistance will be corrected." The alien ships began moving toward the approaching jets. Jake watched in horror as the fighters turned and fled. They were fast, but the alien craft were faster. Within minutes, they had disappeared over the mountains, leaving Jake alone with questions he could not answer. He went back into his cabin and tried to call the sheriff, but his phone was dead. Not broken, just dead. The aliens had somehow cut all his communications. He was trapped in his own home, waiting for whatever came next. As he sat at his kitchen table, Jake thought about the dragon's words. The hegemony sought to claim all worlds for their empire. They destroyed any who might stand against them. Now they were here, and they thought Earth was defenseless, but they were wrong about one thing. The dragon had friends, and maybe those friends were coming to help. Jake could only hope that his simple act of kindness had started something that could save his world. Outside, the morning sun continued to rise, but Jake felt like darkness was falling over everything he had ever known. Jake sat in his kitchen staring at his dead phone. The alien ships had disappeared over the mountains, chasing the fighter jets. He felt helpless and alone. The whole world was about to change, and he was stuck in his cabin with no way to warn anyone. Rex whined and pressed against his leg. The dog had been nervous all morning, and now Jake understood why. Animals could sense things humans missed. Rex had known the aliens were coming before they arrived. A knock at his front door made Jake jump. His heart pounded as he wondered if the aliens had come back. He grabbed a baseball bat from his closet and approached the door carefully. "Jake, you in there? It's Ryan." Jake let out a breath he had been holding. Ryan Torres lived 5 miles down the mountain road. He was an Army Ranger on leave, visiting his parents' old cabin. Jake opened the door and saw his neighbor standing there in camouflage pants and a t-shirt. "Ryan, thank God. Did you see those jets flying over?" Ryan nodded, his face serious. "Yeah, and I saw other things too. 3 black aircraft that didn't look like anything in our Air Force. They were heading this way. Jake looked around outside, then pulled Ryan into the cabin. You need to sit down. What I'm about to tell you is going to sound crazy. Ryan sat at the kitchen table while Jake told him everything. About the dragon, the aliens, and the threat to Earth. Ryan listened without interrupting, his military training keeping him calm even when Jake described the most impossible parts. So these hegemony aliens think Earth is empty? Ryan asked when Jake finished. Not empty. Just populated by primitives who can't fight back. They don't know about the dragons, and they don't understand humans. What don't they understand? Jake thought about his conversation with the alien commander. They can't figure out why I helped an injured creature I had never seen before. They think it's inefficient. They don't understand compassion. Ryan stood up and walked to the window. That might be their weakness. In the army, we learn that enemies who don't understand your culture make mistakes. They plan for the enemy they expect, not the one they actually face. A shadow passed over the cabin. Both men looked up to see a massive shape moving across the sky. It was not an airplane or helicopter. It was alive and it was huge. Is that your dragon? Ryan asked. Jake ran outside with Ryan close behind. Zaraketh was descending toward the field, but she was not alone. 5 other dragons flew with her, their wings spread wide against the morning sky. They were magnificent and terrifying at the same time. The dragons landed in formation, their massive bodies shaking the ground. Zaraketh walked toward Jake, her golden eyes bright with purpose. The other dragons spread out, watching the sky and the surrounding forest. Healing bringer, Zaraketh's voice spoke in Jake's mind. The hunters have found us. They came faster than expected. The aliens? Yeah, they were here. They said they're taking over Earth. Not if we can prevent it. I have brought my wingmates. We are ready to fight. Jake looked at the other dragons. They were all different sizes and colors, but they all had the same intelligent eyes as Zaraketh. One was silver with blue markings, another was deep red with black stripes. The largest was pure white with scars across its hide. This is my neighbor, Ryan, Jake said. He's a soldier. Ryan stepped forward carefully. Your Highness. I'm not sure how to address a dragon. Zaraketh made a sound that might have been laughter. Warrior human, you may call me Zaraketh. We have no need for titles in battle. Can he hear you too? Jake asked. Not yet. The mind link requires trust and time. But his warrior spirit is strong. He will fight beside us. Ryan looked confused. What's she saying? Jake translated quickly. Ryan nodded and checked his sidearm. I don't have much firepower, but I'll do what I can. The sound of jet engines filled the air again. This time there were more of them. Jake counted at least 8 aircraft approaching from different directions. But these jets were being chased. By the alien ships? The human military is retreating, Zaraketh said. Their weapons cannot pierce hegemony shields. But they are brave to try? One of the alien ships broke off from chasing the jets and headed toward Jake's cabin. It had detected the dragons. The other 2 ships followed, their weapons charging with deadly energy. They're coming back, Ryan said, raising his pistol. Your weapon will not harm them, Zaraketh said through Jake. But do not fear. We are not the prey they think we are. The lead alien ship fired at the dragons. A beam of energy lanced down from the craft, the same kind that had burned the dragon the night before. But this time, the dragons were ready. They scattered in different directions, moving faster than Jake thought possible. The white dragon launched itself into the air, its massive wings beating once to gain altitude. It breathed something that looked like fire, but Jake could tell it was not normal flames. The energy struck the alien ship's shield and began eating through it like acid. Dragon. Fire is not what your legends say, Zaraketh explained. It is concentrated energy, designed to break through any barrier. The alien ship shuddered as its shield failed. The white dragon breathed again, and this time the energy struck the ship's hull. The craft began to spin, losing altitude fast. The other 2 alien ships spread out and began firing at all the dragons. The silver dragon took to the air, moving in patterns that made Jake dizzy to watch. It was too fast for the aliens to target accurately. The red dragon stayed on the ground, but moved like lightning, dodging energy beams by inches. "How are they so fast?" Ryan asked, watching in amazement. "We are not just animals," Zaraketh said through Jake. "We are an ancient people. We have fought in the void between stars for longer than your species has existed. The hegemony has never faced dragons in battle. One of the alien ships managed to hit the silver dragon in the wing. The dragon roared in pain but did not fall. Instead, it turned and dove at the alien craft, using its claws to tear at the ship's hull. The alien ship tried to shake it off, but the dragon held on. Jake watched as the dragon's claws found something important in the ship's structure. Sparks flew, and the alien craft began to smoke. The dragon let go and glided to the ground as the ship crashed into the forest. "Two down," Ryan said. "One to go." The last alien ship was retreating, but the white dragon was faster. It caught up to the craft and grabbed it with its massive claws. Jake could see the aliens inside through the ship's windows, their triangular heads moving frantically as they tried to regain control. The white dragon carried the alien ship back to the field and dropped it hard. The craft bounced once and lay still, its engines dead. The dragons surrounded it, their eyes glowing with inner fire. "Now we have prisoners," Zaraketh said. "We will learn their plans." The jets that had been fleeing earlier began to return. Jake could see them circling at a safe distance, their pilots probably trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Dragons fighting aliens was not covered in any military manual. "The human military will want to talk," Jake said. "Yes, and we will talk, but first we must prepare." This was only the first wave. "The hegemony will send more ships when these do not report back." Ryan was examining the crashed alien ship. "How many more?" "Many more, perhaps hundreds." "The hegemony does not accept defeat easily." Jake felt a chill. "Can we stop them? Alone? No. But you showed us something important, Healing Bringer. You showed us that humans have the same spirit we do. The spirit that helps others even when it is dangerous. I still don't understand why that matters. Because the hegemony has never faced two species working together. They conquer by dividing their enemies. They make people afraid to help each other. But you help me without fear. If your people can do that, if they can work with us, then we have a chance." The jets were getting closer. Jake could see one of them waggling its wings, trying to communicate. "I think they want to talk," Ryan said. "Then we talk," Zaraketh said. "But first, we must make sure they understand. This is not just about your world anymore. This is about whether the hegemony will rule the galaxy or whether free peoples will. Stand together." Jake looked at the dragons, then at the approaching jets, then at the alien ship lying broken in his field. His quiet life as a country veterinarian was definitely over. But maybe, just maybe, he had helped start something that could save not just Earth but many worlds. The real war was about to begin. The lead fighter jet circled Jake's property 3 times before the pilot finally decided to land. The F-22 Raptor touched down in the road near Jake's cabin, its engines winding down slowly. The canopy opened, and a woman in a flight suit climbed out. She was tall and moved with the confidence of someone used to being in charge. Her name tag read Martinez, and her rank showed she was a colonel. She kept her hand near her sidearm as she approached the dragons, but her face showed more curiosity than fear. "I'm Colonel Lisa Martinez, United States Air Force," she called out. "I need to speak with whoever is in command here." Jake stepped forward, feeling strange about being the person to make first contact between the U.S. military and dragons. "I'm Jake Morrison. This is my property. And this is Zaraketh, leader of the dragons." Colonel Martinez looked at Zaraketh, who was easily 3 times taller than any human. "Can it understand me?" "She," Jake corrected. "And yes, she understands English. She can speak directly into my mind, and I can translate. Tell her that we watched the battle. We saw what those alien ships could do to our aircraft. Our weapons had no effect on them," Jake relayed the message. Zaraketh responded immediately. She says the hegemony has been conquering worlds for thousands of years. They have the best shields and weapons in the galaxy, but they have one weakness. What's that? They always fight alone. Each ship operates by itself. They don't work together the way you just saw the dragons do. Colonel Martinez nodded thoughtfully. Coordinated tactics versus individual superiority. We understand that concept. How many more ships are coming? Jake asked Zaraketh, who consulted with the other dragons using sounds too low for humans to hear. She says a full invasion fleet. Maybe 200 ships. They'll arrive within hours. The colonel's face went pale. 200? We don't have anything that can stop that many, especially if our weapons don't work. Ryan Torres had been listening to the conversation. Ma'am, what if we could make our weapons work? What if we could combine our technology with theirs? He pointed at the crashed alien ship. There's got to be something in there we can use. And the dragons have their own advanced technology. It's biological, but it's still advanced. Jake translated for Zaraketh, who made an interested sound. She says that's an interesting idea. Dragon fire is actually concentrated energy, not real fire. It can be channeled through other systems. Colonel Martinez activated a radio on her flight suit. Command. This is Raptor 1. I need every available scientist and engineer flown to my location immediately. Also, get me the president on the line. We're going to need to make some big decisions very quickly. While they waited for reinforcements, Jake worked with the dragons to examine the captured alien ship. The creatures inside were still alive, but unconscious. The white dragon, who Zaraketh introduced as Krellnas, had been careful not to kill them. We need them alive to learn about hegemony tactics. Zaraketh explained through Jake. Ryan and Colonel Martinez studied the alien technology. The ship's hull was made of some kind of metal that was lighter than aluminum, but stronger than steel. Its weapons were powered by energy cores that still glowed with mysterious light. If we could figure out how their shields work, Colonel Martinez said, we could maybe build our own, or at least figure out how to get through them. More aircraft began arriving. Transport helicopters brought teams of scientists and engineers from nearby military bases. Jake's quiet mountain property was turning into a bustling command center. The dragons watched everything with interest, occasionally offering suggestions. Through Jake's translations, Dr. Amy Chun was the first scientist to arrive. She was a specialist in alien technology, though she admitted she had never expected to study the real thing. She immediately began examining the alien ship with instruments from her kit. This is incredible, she said, running her hands over the ship's hull. The metal has a crystalline structure I've never seen before. And these energy cores, they're producing power at levels that should be impossible. Jake noticed that the dragons were very interested in Dr. Chun's work. Zaraketh wants to know if you understand energy manipulation. I understand the theory, Dr. Chun replied. But we don't have technology that can actually do what these cores are doing. She says dragons have been working with energy for thousands of years. Maybe you could work together? Dr. Chen's eyes lit up. A collaboration between human science and dragon knowledge? That could be exactly what we need. The silver dragon, whose name was Veltor, approached Dr. Chun. The dragon breathed very gently, and a small stream of energy flowed from its mouth. The energy was cool and controlled, nothing like the destructive fire used in battle. Amazing, Dr. Chun said, holding up an instrument to measure the energy. It's pure focused electromagnetic radiation. How do you control it so precisely? Jake translated the question. Veltor says it's like controlling your breathing or your heartbeat. Dragons are born with organs that can generate and focus energy. What if we could connect those organs to our weapon systems? Colonel Martinez asked. Could a dragon power a human fighter jet? The idea seemed crazy, but Jake asked anyway. The dragons discussed it among themselves, making sounds like distant thunder. Finally, Zaraketh responded. She says it's possible, but it would require trust between the dragon and the human pilot. The dragon would have to be inside the aircraft. Connected to the pilot's mind, Ryan stepped forward. I'll volunteer. I'm a soldier. I've worked with all kinds of equipment. Colonel Martinez shook her head. Too dangerous. We don't know what that kind of connection could do to a human mind. Ma'am, with respect, we're about to be invaded by aliens who can destroy our planes. With ease, a little danger is better than certain defeat. Before anyone could argue further, alarms began sounding from the military equipment. Dr. Chun looked at her instruments and her face went white. Massive energy signatures incoming. Multiple contacts approaching from orbit. Everyone looked up at the sky. Dark shapes were descending through the clouds, dozens of them. The hegemony invasion fleet had arrived. How much time do we have? Colonel Martinez asked. Based on their descent speed, maybe 30 minutes before they reach attack range. Jake felt panic rising in his chest. That's not enough time to figure out how to combine our technologies. Zaraketh made a sound that was almost like a sigh. She says we'll have to improvise. Dragons have always been good at adapting to new situations. Colonel Martinez was already on her radio, calling for every available aircraft to converge on their location. All units, this is command. We need everything that can fly over the Montana region immediately. This is not a drill. Ryan was still examining the alien ship. What about their weapons? Could we remove them and mount them on our aircraft? Dr. Chun ran over with her instruments. The power requirements are enormous. A single alien weapon needs more energy than an entire power plant produces. But what if a dragon was providing the power? Jake asked that the idea was insane, but it might work. Dragons could generate massive amounts of energy, and humans were good at building systems to use that energy. Neither species could win alone, but together they might have a chance. We'll need to work fast, Colonel Martinez said. And we'll need volunteers from both species. Jake looked at the approaching alien ships, then at the dragons and humans working frantically around him. His simple act of helping an injured creature had started a chain of events that led to this moment. Two different species preparing to fight side by side against impossible odds. Then let's get started, Jake said. We have a world to save. The dragons roared their agreement, their voices echoing across the mountains. The final battle for Earth was about to begin. The sky above Montana filled with alien ships. They descended like a dark cloud, blotting out the sun. Jake counted at least 50 vessels in the first wave, with more appearing every minute. Each ship was larger than the scouts that had arrived earlier, and their weapons glowed with deadly energy. In the frantic 20 minutes before the attack began, something amazing happened. Human engineers and dragon knowledge merged in ways no one had thought possible. Ryan Torres sat in the cockpit of an F-22 Raptor, but this was no ordinary fighter jet. Veltor, the silver dragon, had somehow compressed her body and squeezed into the aircraft's modified cargo space. This is the craziest thing I've ever done, Ryan said into his radio, and I've jumped out of planes in Afghanistan. Through the mental link that Veltor had established with him, Ryan could feel the dragon's calm confidence. The connection was strange but not frightening. It was like having a wise friend sharing his thoughts. Dragon fire ready, Ryan reported. Veltor says she can power the weapons for about 15 minutes before needing to rest. Colonel Martinez was in another modified aircraft with Krellnas. The White Dragon. Dr. Chun had managed to connect the dragon's energy output directly to the plane's weapon systems. The result was human aircraft powered by dragon fire. All units. This is command, Colonel Martinez's voice crackled over the radio. Remember, our weapons now have the power to punch through their shields. Stay close to your dragon partners and follow their targeting advice. Jake remained on the ground at what had become the command center. He was the only person who could clearly communicate with all the dragons at once, making him essential for coordinating the battle. Zaraketh stayed beside him, her golden eyes watching the alien fleet with ancient patience. The hegemony commander is trying to contact us, Dr. Chun announced from her equipment station. Should we answer? Put it through the speakers, Colonel. Martinez ordered from her aircraft. The same flat, emotionless voice Jake remembered from the morning filled the air. Attention, primitive species. You have interfered with hegemony operations for the final time. Surrender immediately, and your deaths will be quick. Jake stepped forward to the microphone Dr. Chun offered him. This is Jake Morrison. I'm the human who helped the dragon yesterday. I have a message for you. Speak, primitive. We're not surrendering. And we're not as primitive as you think. You made one big mistake. Explain. You never learned how to make friends. There was a long pause. Then the alien voice returned, sounding confused. Friends are inefficient. They require resources without providing adequate returns. That's where you're wrong, Jake said, looking at the dragons and humans working together around him. Friends make you stronger. They help you when you're hurt. They fight beside you when you're in trouble. You'll never understand that, and that's why you're going to lose. The alien ships began their attack without another word. Energy beams lanced down from orbit, targeting the human dragon aircraft, but the pilots were ready. Ryan's modified F-22 rolled and dove, moving in patterns that Veltor suggested through their mental link. The dragon's knowledge of three-dimensional combat in space gave Ryan advantages no human pilot had ever possessed. Firing dragon weapons, Ryan announced. A stream of concentrated energy erupted from his aircraft, striking one of the alien ships. The vessel's shields flickered and failed. A second burst of dragon fire, and the ship began falling toward the mountains. Direct hit, Ryan shouted. These things actually work. The battle spread across the sky as more human aircraft engaged the alien fleet. But the real surprise came when additional dragons arrived. Dozens of them, flying in from all directions. Zaraketh had called for help, and her people had answered. The Skyborn come to defend their birth world, Zaraketh told Jake. Many of our young ones live among the stars, but they remember the place where our species began. The alien fleet found itself facing an enemy they had never encountered before. A coordinated defense by two different species. Human aircraft used their advanced sensors and communication systems to coordinate attacks, while dragons provided the firepower and three-dimensional combat experience to make those attacks. Effective. Jake watched the battle from the ground, relaying communications between the human pilots and their dragon partners. The mental strain was enormous, but he pushed through it. Every successful attack, every downed alien ship, proved that cooperation was stronger than domination. Jake, Dr. Chun called out, we're picking up massive energy readings from the lead alien ship. I think they're preparing some kind of super weapon. Through his link with Zaraketh, Jake could sense the dragon's concern. She says the hegemony has planet-killer weapons. If they can't conquer Earth, they might try to destroy it. Colonel Martinez's voice came over the radio. All units, target the command ship. We need to stop whatever they're charging up there. But the command ship was protected by layers of smaller vessels. Every time a human dragon team tried to get close, they were driven back by concentrated fire. The alien superweapon continued charging, its energy signature growing stronger every second. We need a new plan, Ryan said over the radio. There are too many of them between us and the big ship. Jake looked at Zaraketh. Is there anything dragons can do that the aliens don't expect? We can survive in the void between worlds, Zaraketh replied. But it would be very dangerous. An idea formed in Jake's mind. It was crazy, but it might work. What if some dragons carried humans into space? Outside the atmosphere, where the aliens wouldn't expect an attack. Possible. But humans cannot. Breathe in the void. Dr. Chun overheard the translation. What about space suits? We have emergency suits in some of the aircraft. They're designed for high-altitude ejections. It could work, Colonel Martinez said. But we'd need volunteers for what's basically a suicide mission. I'll go, Jake said immediately. Absolutely not, Colonel Martinez replied. You're too valuable? As a communicator, then I'll go, Ryan volunteered. Veltor and I are already linked. If she can carry me into space, we might be able to get close enough to hit that command ship. Within minutes, they had a plan. 3 dragons would carry human volunteers into space, approaching the alien command ship from above where its shields were weakest. It was dangerous for both species, but it was their best chance. Jake helped Ryan into a spacesuit designed for Emergency use. You sure about this? No, Ryan admitted. But someone has to try. Besides, Veltor says she'd take care of me. The 3 space assault teams launched simultaneously. Jake watched through binoculars as the dragons carried their human partners high into the atmosphere, disappearing against the blue sky. He lost sight of them completely when they passed beyond the atmosphere. The wait was agonizing. On the ground, the battle continued as the remaining human dragon teams kept the alien fleet busy. But everyone knew the real fight was happening. In space, where 3 humans and 3 dragons were attempting the impossible. Energy spike from the command ship, Dr. Chun announced. Whatever they're doing, it's almost ready. Then suddenly the massive alien vessel shuddered. Explosions bloomed along its hull as the space assault teams struck from above. The ship's energy readings fluctuated wildly. "They did it!" Colonel Martinez shouted. "The command ship is losing power." But the victory came at a cost. Only 2 dragons returned from space, carrying their human partners back to the atmosphere. Veltor and Ryan had sacrificed themselves to ensure the command ship was destroyed. With their command ship gone, the alien fleet began to retreat. Some ships were destroyed by pursuing dragons, but most escaped into deep space. Earth was safe, but the price had been high. In the days that followed, Jake found himself at the center of a new world. The existence of dragons was no longer secret, and humanity's place in the galaxy had changed forever. Zaraketh established a formal embassy on Earth, with Jake serving as the first human dragon ambassador. "Your friend Ryan died a hero," Zaraketh told him as they stood in the rebuilt field behind his cabin. "His sacrifice will be remembered by both our peoples." Jake nodded, feeling the weight of loss and responsibility. He understood what friendship meant, what working together could accomplish. Yes, and now the galaxy will learn. The hegemony's defeat here will inspire other worlds to resist. Your species' gift for cooperation will spread to the stars. As Jake looked up at the sky, he could see dragon shapes flying alongside human aircraft. His simple act of helping an injured creature during a storm had changed everything. Earth was no longer alone in the universe, and the galaxy would never be the same. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started with one human who chose compassion over fear.